right, here we go, everybody. 2000. Oh, there you go, Danny Crossman. We came to the crossroads finally. Finally. Guy had 75 lives. Finally. So Danny Crossman kiboshed. Wes Welker kiboshed. We've entered the 2025 season. And, you got to be honest. It's not, hasn't started out hot to trot aside from Crossman getting canned. So let's talk Dolphins. We can can go on for hours talking about that news conference, but it's like what at this point it's like beating a dead horse. Let's try to get into where we're at. Obviously we'll talk about Crossman and we'll talk about Welker. We'll just talk about the Dolphins, man. This season, what's going on? Jonathan Dill, what's going on, brother? How you doing, man? So, whatever, anybody in the audience, if they got some questions, throw them up there. We'll just talk about it. But I really want to run through Dirk the Daring to the right. You can see little things up in my man, Abel. Here we go. Yeah, Richard Keys. We will get into that.
Yep.
We were just talking about that behind the scenes. I don't know. Who the heck knows what a receiver coach is doing or not doing? It's, if these guys aren't like DC, OC, head coach, it's really, really hard to gauge what they're doing, So maybe it's a bonus. We'll get into that. Inspired something quite contrary to the in direct opposition of confidence. That was a really hard one to take, man. It was like watching my kid wet the bed, and I had to do it for like 30 minutes, man. It was terrible. I don't like Greer, and I like McDaniel as a person, but not as a coach. But that was rough. That was rough to take a look at. Yeah, I think this is great. So anyway, let's get into it. Abel, give us what you see with anything you want to talk about. Let's line this thing up.
So, I just want to start off first by saying, Chris, I always tell you the time, man, thanks for having us on. And,
oh yeah, of course.
I just want to get I'm sorry, but it's like, I want to get personal, like just for me, myself as being like a fan. And, if anything out of all this, I was thinking about it, at least I got to make people like, true fans like you and Dirk and Jay and Cody and Joe and, everybody in the comments. So, that's always there because I commented on the video, the one that you did yesterday. And like, I'm still, I'm not gonna cuss on the channel, but like I'm still pretty like angry about everything. Like it's just I told you in my comment, like it's not it's not fair. It's not fair to us as fans, like that management doesn't care, and Steve Ross, and when how they came on the press conference, like, oh well, we need to do everybody, we need to do everything right now. It's like, well, what the hell happened for the last year, 2 years before this? And it's just, like I'm like Dirk was saying right now, I've always optimistic about the season, but like now, like I really, really do feel like really broken. Where, I'm every single, of course I'm gonna come back week one and be, toting my hat on and everything just like everyone else, because it's like I'm a fan, till I die, But it's not fair. Like it's making me look like a jack, or a jackass if I go out there. Why the hell am I gonna go out there? Wearing your hat, wearing a jersey, wearing everything when you guys aren't even gonna put the product out on the field. It's just it's totally like even where I'm telling. So I've only ever watched one Dolphins game live. For any of you guys that are down there in South Florida, or any of you guys that are watching more games, that's great. But the only game I've ever watched live was in Arizona when it was Tua's first game when he beat Kyler Murray back in 2020.
Oh, nice! That was a good one.
That was a good game. Yeah,
started out ugly.
after COVID, I told my wife, like right before COVID happened, I told her, what do you want to do? And she's like, oh, well, I want to do this and this. And I'm like, you know what? I want to go see a Dolphins game live.
It's cool.
Never done it. And like now as we're getting older and like seeing all the games this year, like when they beat San Francisco. When they beat New York, whoever they beat at home, I'm like, man, I want to be there. Like how you mentioned, Curtis, when you went down there with your wife and fans and everybody's cool, and it's like,
yeah. And
then I turn around and I'm like, why the hell am I gonna go and spend all these hundreds and to go watch them lose, to see this what they're putting out on the field? So I mean, I just want to start there with me personally, and for anyone, sorry, what's happening. I know that what me saying my sorry is not going to matter jack of anything, but it's BS. It is total BS, and I'm still really fed up with how the season ends because I know that next season nothing's going to change. I'm sorry to say it. I know that they're back.
That's a lot for you to say because you're very positive.
I know that they're back in between a corner and McDaniel but dude, you're dealing with high school stuff where the guys aren't coming aren't showing up to your meetings on time. Well, what's the next thing? What would somebody like Bill Belichick do? Oh, you're not going to play in the game. You're not going to play in the game this week. You can't show up and take this seriously.
Oh,
You're
I
not going to
know.
play this. You're not going to play this week, or take it to something that. But I mean, if it's Wilk West is a scapegoat, I mean, that's what I want to start with there. It's just I'm frustrated.
Yeah, especially because you got it compounding over decades. It's just this. It's like one of those pots. And my wife cooks a lot, and so the pot's like bubbling, the whole top of things like shaking. And you're like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" It's just it reaches that point of explosion.
26 years.
Yeah, but the thing is, look, I'm like, I guess they would call me the bad guy. But I restart all my evaluations every offseason. I do. I literally wipe it out. I mean, I hold those data points from the previous years, but I just start fresh. And it's the only way I can stay objective. And you got to cut all emotions out to evaluate properly. And anytime you get your emotions involved, it's not going to go in the direction that's like most conducive to success. So we've got to just wait and see. Obviously, it started. Look, Chris Greer I called him a snake in 2021. I said the guy is a backstabber. He's got low character. And you could see that. He threw everybody under the bus, took no real. He had token, like, yeah, well, I'm involved. But he's not a good guy. I mean, he's not a good leader, I should say. He's not a guy that you want to lead. But you don't know. I mean, what happens if he plays it out right? I'm not the chances are it's like I'm not going to bet the house. So you just got to wait and see. There are so many variables. I mean, just simply the movement of Hill. If he stays or he goes. If he stays, then are we leaning into what we've done in the past as far as our current scheme and philosophy? If he goes, are we really shifting? And then what can happen? I don't know. We have lots of picks. Marvin Allen might go be a GM someplace else, and you might be able to get some picks for that. I'm not sure if it's this year or next year. So, look, I don't like Greer's, but I got to evaluate fairly. He had a good draft last year. Not a great one.
Decent,
I think,
though.
Yeah, it's solid. I mean, depending on how Paul plays out. So let's see. It's all we can do. And I did a podcast today, and I don't know if it was good, my delivery or whatever. I'm not saying like that was like the ace part of it, but to me, I think it was really, really good. Not much catch because I didn't hear about the Crossman. I was like working on it all day. And I wasn't checking the news, and like I found Crossman and Welker got canned, so I probably buried everything. But I thought it was really, really good. It was comparing Jason Taylor to Hill and what true leadership and true high point players are supposed to be like. And so, the key is setting this team up with enough guys of the right character and some killers in the group to put this thing together. I don't know. We don't have a lot of money, but we've got to see. To me, it is to Abel's direction. The loss of Campbell, he is not coming back. There's no way if he plays again, which I don't think he is. Maybe. If he goes to a team, they sign him to a team and they win a Super Bowl, I could see him coming back or close. But he ain't coming back here. There's no way. And so the loss of him is huge. Hill is who Hill is. Who are we getting in to fill his void? Wilkins leaving was a huge void for his voice and his presence. But Campbell filled it plus. But now both are gone. Can we do this magical thing where you find a Campbell guy again? I don't know. So there's a lot into the mix. We've got to see. And yeah, I mean, I personally think the hustle begins again 100%, but we're fans. We got to, I'll say it, Jonathan. How does Greer still have a job? We're so funny now. Greer can finally admit the O-line is terrible. Is going to fix it. You never, ever since we fired Mike Westhoff, Mike Westhoff was great. I can't believe.
What about Rizzo?
Rizzo was good too, dude. He was very good. Yeah.
And he's actually kind of available because I don't think he's going to get a coaching job.
Yeah, no, but he won't come back here.
No, he get kind of screwed over by us.
No, he won't come. Nobody comes back here. Nobody wants to really. I mean, Gailey came back and look what happened to him.
Yeah, dude.
He had a fun old time. So, but I think you just got to do that. This is about fun. It's Bruce Lee had talked about fighting. It's a play that's got to be played seriously, but it's still a play, and we're here to have fun. And within that, we've got to try to find some good things because. I was saying earlier in the thing, this could be the darkest before the dawn. And if you get somebody next year, maybe Ross leaves or gives it to his daughter or whatever, and then you get the right framework, guys that are being drafted now, you're going to have your evaluation to know where you're at in that season. And so let's just try to be honest, but also try to find not positives, but realities and see how this thing plays out. Free agency is the first thing up. It's a big deal. See what happens there, and then you then go to draft, and after the draft you'll have some kind of idea. But anyway, Dirk the Daring Man, what do you think?
I think you're right about the resetting kind of your evaluations before the season starts again. I think you're right there. You're dead on because things change, and I'm not saying everything's going to change this year. I'm not saying everything's going to get better.
Sorry to kill a mosquito. Hot over here, the window's open. Cat ripped a hole in the screen, an idiot. I love him to death, but he thinks he's the king of the house. He wanted to go out, and I didn't get up quick enough, ripped the screen in there. So anyway, I keep going. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. Things. I'm not saying everything's going to get better this year, and I'm not saying we're setting up for a 15-2 season. But I am finding myself in that going towards that role of optimistic cautiously as we get near the beginning of the season. And I always get that way when the season starts. And I know that Dolphins fans as a whole, I mean, we're all fans here too. We're jaded. There's no better description for what we are right now is everybody's got a little bit of that Grinch heart right now.
And it's like Curtis now.
Yeah, and we're all that way. I mean, especially some of us older fans. I mean, we've been through this ringer. How many times has it been the same thing? And how many times are we as fans going to say, "Oh, it's going to change this year"? And here I am thinking maybe it'll change this year. So I don't know.
Well, I know it's a broad-based change because you have to look at the micro and the macro. So the micro is Greer probably, if we follow history, Greer will wet the bed. McDaniel won't change anything. We'll have a poor season. Okay, what's the next step? I mean, my point is, I totally forgot my point. Point is, Jason Taylor. Jason Taylor never quit. The guy's leg almost got taken off. He never, ever quit. He never won anything, and he never quit. And we've got to take that mentality. We've got to have intestinal fortitude. And I know some people want, like, I'm done or whatever. That's fair. You got every right to. But in a way, you just got to hold out because we don't know. And I don't know. I fight to the end. And guys like Dan Marino, Zach Thomas, Brian Cox, Jason Taylor, Cameron Wake, I want to be like them in a sense. And so I think we just got to, keep that in mind, or else it just becomes bitter and ugly and it becomes a negative effect.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot of really good pieces. I mean, that we know of. We love HN. We love Sealer. Jordan Brooks. I think, man, he was the one of the great voices on this team that we got.
Leadership.
There's a lot of good pieces, and I mean, it's just it goes back to those other kind of. What happened with Hill after the game and things like that. But because I was with Dirk. We were I was watching. I was on his live, and we were watching.
Yeah,
I
guys,
was
check out Dirk, man. Dirk's getting the live thing going, brother. I gotta catch up with you.
Oh, I'm a very small, little itty bitty channel.
but
You'll get bigger. Don't worry, man.
yeah, like I mean, we were just saying, hopefully, with Greer's inept to like he's running. Like you always said, Curtis running HN into the ground. So
Yeah.
you know,
Man, imagine what would happen if we just forget about great offensive line. If we just had a middle of the road, like top 15, top 17 offensive line in the NFL. Just imagine what our run game would be like.
Thesis, man. That's been my thesis.
It's so sad.
Yeah, Garfinkel, the Garfunkel.
Yeah. You kind of have to wonder how much Steve Ross cares. I mean, I'm not trying to hate on Stephen Ross. I'm just saying with the way he's making money right now, he makes more in, I think, one race on that F1 track around the stadium
Yeah.
than he does the entire year with Miami.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's unreal. So you kind of wonder. I know he cares. He wants to win. I'm not saying that, but I wonder if Stephen Ross has just lost a little bit of his motivation to put on the hard ass hat that he needs to do sometimes. I really think that that's what he needs to do. He needs to put that hat on and run and get a little more. I can't believe I'm saying it. The owner needs to get involved.
Yeah, well, no, I think it's. I mean, I think the problem is the owner gets involved too much, and he doesn't know how to appoint real football guys with character enough to tell him no. And I think that Garfinkel is kind of like a Rasputin, and he's old. He's 84, 85. I think he generally wanted to win, but he was so unscrupulous that he poisoned the waters.
Yeah.
So it's a weird find. The one thing he needs to get involved with is fire Greer, tell Garfinkel, shut up, get a GM in here who's really the GM. Because he keeps saying over and over, he wants a corporate of association development. So everybody shares and everybody has a voice. That does not work. That's how the Nazis ran World War II, and it didn't go for them, where they had the supreme commander in America, one voice to say this, this, then this, and they would outmaneuver on the strategic level the Germans. In combat, in these kind of endeavors, you need one voice. The voice has to listen, but that voice is the highest voice, and it can't be the owner.
Boots on the ground, man.
Yep. And you just got to have that guy. You've got look, we don't like the Bills, but Bean is running the show. The owner is just like backing off. You don't ever hear from the guy. And everyone was saying they were going to be a dead year for them. And they got rid of a lot of dead weight, a lot of, names. And look where they are again, because they got one voice running the show. Are they going to win a Super Bowl? I don't know, but that's the way you got to do it. I mean, you look at even like the Pittsburgh with Tomlin. They wanted to get Flores. He walked in, he talked to the owner once, and he said, all right, yeah, whatever you want. It's like that. That's how it's got to be. And it's not, because Ross thinks he's smarter than he is. And he is a very smart man, but not in football. And he tries to take corporatization and add it into a pseudo-military sport. It does not jive.
Yeah. Need something to change. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, my man Yuki. I want to say hi to Yuki. I really wanted to catch you that night at the game, bro. I really did. That entire FO fought to the nails not to have Harbaugh come in because he was going to come. Yeah, and I don't know. You know what? You might be. That's a really good point. I didn't think of that. And my original gut reaction would be he wouldn't want to come here. But if Peyton was going to come here, he's very similar to Harbaugh. We'd have total control. And if Peyton was willing to come here, that would mean maybe Harbaugh would too. And maybe that was the case that guys like Garfinkel and, the people in the background, say like Greer and whoever else fought that off. That's a really good point. I never, ever, ever considered that. I like that. Yeah, we've got way too many hanger-ons for Ross. You know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so let's build from the ground up. All right, so we really have a very small roster. We're at negative, like, I don't know, 3 million or something. We got 35 players. I went over the list. It's not hot to trot. Yeah, definitely next year, Yuki. Yeah, definitely. What are the core players that the leaders that we can build on? And let's build out from there, because I'm going to do a podcast where I line up all the players that we got and start building it out and talking about as they are as players, units, and leadership. Leadership is the key. Culture,
Well,
yeah.
I think you got to start on defense. You got to start with Sealer. You have to.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean,
he's
I
quiet
think,
though. He's quiet though. He's the leader on the field.
Yeah, definitely. And you think they're going to let go of Walker?
Probably. He's injured so much.
Let me see.
But they might bring him back for cheap. They like that. Who knows if Greer's still on his I don't care about injuries thing.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. You got to answer a question, man. They're asking.
I live in North Pole, Alaska.
He's almost as north as you get.
That's the kicker.
Yeah, he was negative 41 the other day. That's crazy. Yep. Ramsey, what do you guys think about Ramsey?
I think he had an off year. I don't think he played terrible. I do think he definitely maybe took a small step back this year. It could be because he's getting a little older. I don't think the age is as much of an effect as maybe him just getting back into playing the way he played. You know, the kind of game that he played in Los Angeles with the Rams, because I think he's going to do better next year. I think that we got to hang on to him. But
yeah, he's
definitely
he's an expensive talent. He's
Yeah.
overvalued as far as the money, but he's still a darn good player.
So on that, I have a question for you guys. And I kind of already have my thoughts on this guy, but also he happens to be one of my very favorite players. Kader Kohu, what do you guys think about him?
I like Kader. I think he saved our season. Was it 2022?
22, yeah.
Yeah, he came in and saved our season. He struggles in mid to late clock because he doesn't have a high kick. His pop isn't so good. And he had hot games and cold games. But the guy, he's an undrafted free agent. You got to give these guys time. He's got a great physicality. I think he's shown enough flash. Yeah. I don't know. I think he'll get more of that money elsewhere, though.
Yeah, I like him.
Better systems for him.
I like him because of the way he tackles. That's
on occasion. Sometimes he gets sloppy.
Yeah. He wants to make that big hit.
22 and 23. Yeah, he was aces 22 and 23 in his tackling a little bit, half, and then he kind of struggled this year.
So I think, I'd like to keep him, but I mean, I guess it depends on what he's commanding. And Storm Duck too. I really think that we need to continue developing him as well.
Have no choice, got to.
Yeah.
But the question too is now. Remember how high everybody was on Bonner, and Bonner didn't see much of anything. So
yeah, I didn't see him at all this year. Hardly.
So where we are at the second, we'll dig into that. Okay, so Ramsey, we know. What do you think about Ramsey as a leader, though?
I mean, I haven't even seen the comments of what he posted and took down. So I mean, I know that he was kind of running out too, but I mean, he's just kind of one of those players where I mean, you guys know my brother's a Jaguars fan when he started his career, where the corners are going into it with the defensive line. So I mean, it's just I mean, he knows for how much he gets paid that he has to be a leader, but like a good one, I would say, not one that's going to create drama. I mean, just looking at it from like a emotional standpoint of the team, but I mean, he knows that he's one of the heartbeats of the defense, and I mean that he can't do like what, things are going bad, I went out like Hill. So I mean, I would love to have him, but it's like, if you don't want to be here, I mean, what is that? What is that? Why do we want to have you be on the team? You're going to say stuff like that.
Did you guys happen to see that tweet that he had that
Yeah.
everybody flipped out about? I mean, I can kind of see if you stretched for a relation there, but I don't think it was quite what everybody was making it out to be. And I think that's partially why he took it down, because I don't think he wanted people to think that he was saying that he wants to leave. So I'm not too sure on that one
I don't know if it
personally.
was so much about wanting to leave. Look, he's had a multiple personas. The way he was in Jacksonville was terrible. The way he left, it was very, very
Yeah.
ugly. But when he was with the Rams, it was pretty much, nothing. You didn't hear anything. But there was success there. And I think maybe in the background, they're trying to maybe recoup some money, or maybe they even want him to transition to safety. It seemed like they're maybe not getting out, but it was something that was put up for a reason. What that might be, we don't know. But it did feel, we don't know, but it did feel there was a little bit of, troubled water somewhere. How big? I don't know. It just was a bad timing with Hill doing what he was doing. So I don't know. But as Yuki said, he's quiet. He's a leader. He had that. Remember, he had the meeting about soft to start the season a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm a little concerned too that if you look last year, that he was missing assignments with Fangio, and there was some missed stuff going on this year. And he might be a little, guy who's lived his life on the physical, and maybe he's not driving the team to work as hard or as hard. There was just a lot of missed assignments. I don't know if it was him or not, but you'd figure a guy like Ramsey should have that crew locked down. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. You'd figure he'd have these guys drilled up, but it's 2 years of this guys not being in the right spot, 2 different coaches. So I don't know. I still think it was a good trade to have. I don't know if I like the extension of $24 million. I got to check to see what the money is this year, but I don't think it's a negative. But it could be if things start wetting the bed and maybe he starts getting discontented. I don't know. I don't know him well enough. He's clearly a player.
Yeah. Personally, I would actually kind of like to see him at safety. I know some people might not want to see that, like him, but I think that he could be a really, really good safety, especially with those ball skills. Like I think he would tear up defenses from the safety position. But I guess we'll see. I mean, I think we can all agree Poyer's gone, right?
Well, yeah. He's too old.
Yeah.
That. And I think Holland's gone too.
Yeah. Yep.
So now if Holland goes, then all the talk about Greer's great drafts, man, that's another hit.
Yep.
I mean, I was talking about this with Dirk on his live, and I mean, I know that he had a really down year, and it might be just because I have his jersey, and I know like his nickname Snowman, but I mean, for the right price, I mean, obviously he's not going to get type safety money. But I mean, I think it'd be great to have him back. I mean, I know there's a little bit of controversy. I was kind of on his boat when he was kicking rock after Fangio left, and I'll eat crow on that one because it's you're a young dude and was just crying about the old man trying to get down on you. But I mean, I know it's going to be controversial, but I'm going to say I would like to have him back for the right price. I told Dirk that on his channel live, and I know his knees are bad too, but I mean, I still think he's a pretty good piece for this team. That's back there. That's my opinion on that. I know it's pretty kind of controversial.
Yeah, I was a huge Holland fan, and then I wasn't. Not as a, I was, and then I wasn't. Anyways, Dirk, keep going, brother.
I wouldn't mind having Holland back. It's like I said, the big concern there for me is the contract, because he needs a contract. And I don't think Holland is going to want to take a 1 or 2 year contract for a mediocre amount of money. And I really, after this year, I think that's all the Dolphins could be willing to give. I mean, we'll see, obviously. But if he does sign a smaller contract for a year or two, I would be okay with him coming back. But like I said, I mean, he's got to do something more than this year.
That was a bad year for him.
Yeah, he had
He was
some
being
rough
selfish too. He
games.
was trying to make plays to enhance his.
Yeah,
He'd screw
yeah.
up.
How many times did we see him jump a pass to try to get the ball instead of
Yeah,
making the tackle?
he
It's
was
like,
looking for
bro,
dollars, man. That was a dollar move.
yeah. It's like, brother, you're a safety, man. You got to make that tackle above all else. You are the last ditch tackler. You got to do it.
I know.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
he was so good in 20. Was it 21?
yeah, yep. Killer.
All right, I want to look at this one. This is a deep OL draft. At 13, I'd pick Tyler Warren. I know he's a tight end.
Oh,
His
yes.
the position is rare. Pair him with John Waddle, possession type, bigger wide receiver, and better run game. What do you guys think about that?
You get to run that big setup, man. You get to run that twin tight end. And that guy, Tyler Warren, he can block too. Like
That's
he's
rare.
like a lineman with
Yeah.
he's a lineman with great hands. And that man would be amazing. I agree 100%. Dude, George Garcia is spitting fire this whole time on this live stream.
Yep. I think he might go a little bit higher though than 13. But if he was there, I would take him because it's an OL, it's a deep OL draft.
Yeah.
But the top talents at 13 on the OL is going to be a tackle. So you can't get out from under Jackson, and Jackson cannot. I don't think Jackson can play inside. I am so surprised I see people saying that. I'm so surprised I see people saying that he was so good. I see people putting stats up like with Jackson, without Jackson. And it's to me, that's kind of crazy. I could be wrong. But so you'd have Paul and you'd have Jackson and you get another tackle and you could slide the tackle maybe inside. I don't know what tackle would be. I mean, you got to deal with all that stuff. But we do that too much. We move guys out of position, move them back. So I think Tyler Warren, it is so rare to get a tight end that can block. And this is a pass balanced league. And the things you can do, you should be, if you're a good team, you should, if you quote unquote got Jackson, who's quote unquote your tackle, and you got Paul, who's your quote unquote other tackle, then you should be looking to fill out backup tackle and interior offensive line. And
guards.
but if you attach, the next most valuable piece is your tight end. And it is so hard. I mean, like I like Kincaid, but that guy can't block. But if you get a guy who can do both, this what this league is about now. It moved to the offensive line, especially interior and tight ends, as premier positions. You don't get them. Some people will say, no, get a tackle. And in a way, I agree because I don't think Jackson's the guy. But I think it's easier to find a tackle than it is to find a tight end who can catch and block. I don't know Tyler Warren. I'm not going to sit here and say he's this, that, and the other thing, but just in theory, it is so hard to find those guys, and they do so much. They affect defense and the DC and how things look and how the possibilities can happen from the OC. So I am all on that in theory for a guy that could do both those things. What do you guys think?
I'm down, man. And I was talking about on one of my videos, I said that we have 10 draft picks this year. And I would mark this draft a win if we did 6 offensive line drafts. Draft 6 offensive linemen throughout the draft, 1 tight end, and 1 large receiver. Somebody with some size. No more 5'8" receivers. Maybe 1 6'3", 6'4", 6'2", somewhere in there. Someone with some hands that can go up and get that 50-50 ball.
Yeah.
That's what we need. And if we did those 3 things in our draft, I would be so ecstatic. And most people would look at that. ESPN would rate that as that's not a very sexy draft for the Dolphins.
They're ESPN.
That's exactly what we need. A non-sexy draft that all Dolphins fans would be like, oh my goodness, yes. That's what we need.
The thing, Abel, I have something I want to say, but Abel, what do you got to say about that, brother?
I mean, that 13th pick is going to be interesting. If we do, go with the tight end. I mean, that's going to be 12 personnel, which is going to be very interesting. But I mean, there's a lot of holes everywhere on the team where it's like, we need guards. Do we go guard? We need the defensive line spot next to Seidler, as Chris you're gonna do his his special where I joked with Dirk, said, well, we're gonna get a first round wide receiver, 5'8", 5'9", another speedster kind of thing. Is he
I
gonna
don't think
do
I would be so shocked. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Greer, but I would be so shocked if he did something like
but
that.
it's gonna be very interesting just from a point where it's like, okay, how are the chips gonna fall? Like, are they gonna double down on what they said, what they're gonna do, and Great. Oh, okay. Now we need to build the offensive line. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we're freaking telling you for 2, 3, 5 years already. But or are we gonna go 12 personnel? Are we gonna get somebody on defense? Like I said, it's gonna be a very telling pick, that first one, and
Mhm.
it's gonna be interesting. I think that's the biggest thing. Where how's everything gonna fall from there onward? Because it's a lot of picks and there's a lot of holes.
A lot of holes. To me, I really think we need a really good zero. I am so unhappy. I like Chubb, but I really wanted Sweat. Sweat would have been such a nice
Yeah.
piece for us. I would have liked him way better than Chop. That was the guy I really, really wanted. We need a DI in a big, big way. Kamara and Chop and Phillips, that should fill the edges. We got other guys in the background. But that DI, Benito Jones was ridiculous. I mean, he made some plays, but Sealer is not. When you take Campbell out now, this defense is a black hole on the interior because you're just going to focus on Sealer in the run game, and you've got to get a zero, big nose tackle. Big fat boy, or just a big boy, somebody to man that spot and suck up the double. Because we run like the Ravens, and they got Pierce, the guy's like 6 foot tall, 350, unmovable, and then they got Jones, and so I think that's a thing too. Is we need a DI, because I think that Seal is he's not being served at his best. We need you need a little bit of a 50 look because he's way better when he's outside the guard.
Yep.
When he gets inside, it really abuses him. He's going to be 30 years old, I think, this year. So his body, he's starting to get a little bit older. You need a big guy in there. So we need a DI. We need 2 safeties. We need more corner help, linebacker help, interior offensive lineman, probably a receiver, and certainly tight end. And a backup quarterback. I would say that would be the grouping. But tight end,
Skylar Thompson, come on, Skylar Thompson.
Oh yeah, he's the guy. And it's again, who knows if he was in a system conducive for him? So the whole thing though, it's like a pin feather. You pull the feather out on a bird. The one feather, it can't fly. It can have every other feather, but you pull the pin feather out, and the whole thing crumbles. And so Hill is that because it's a philosophical key, because we've got to get to the line of scrimmage. We've got to be able to call audibles, at least to some degree. We've got to be able to affect that A and B gap. We've got to draw the leverage of the linebackers up. And so if we run our outside zone, and I think it was Gruden who says outside zone, whose block is? He's like everybody. And that's the key with outside zone. You stretch and everybody's going to hold their block, because the cutback is the most critical thing. And we don't get cutbacks.
Nope.
It's all run to extension, run to the edges, and that's it, because there is no cutback. And so there's so many problems. I could talk about it for a while. I'm not saying I'd be accurate, but so you start, if you're trying to do pass balance, the key is the center. And the key is the center on what we run our zone stretch for the most part. But Brewer, he's really good at the second level, but he gets moved, he gets flattened, and a lot of reasons that's why there's no cutback and we can't drive, especially in the red zone. And so what do? You got Brewer, you can't get off Brewer. And so if you go to a pass balance, which I like Tyler, you're going to have to get 2 big, powerful, but mobile guards to offset his weaknesses. And that's not easy. You look at the best zone stretch team we saw in the last decade or so, a little bit over that. was Atlanta with Ryan, and they had Mack and a very good offensive line. Now, he was an agile player, but he could hold his own and move guys from time to time. Brewers struggles with that. And so it's where do you go with that? If you move off Hill, you're going to be forcing the onus on this offensive line and the physicality. And so it's just a whole set of dominoes of uncertainty. And it starts with Hill. And then it goes to McDaniel. If McDaniel goes to a different system or alters his system that's more conducive, he's got to game plan better. He's got to enhance his playbook. When you start adding audibles and you start adding more concepts at the line of scrimmage, then he's going to have to play call and scheme call and adjust more. He does not really do that. He has this framework he puts to the line of scrimmage, and it's a scheme mismatch. And then it's up to the quarterback. And then he might call different plays within that, but it's taking a lot of the weight off him as far as adjustments and calls. And so there's a whole list of things that as they go down the line is very uncertain and it's very complex. So, but it's going to start with Hill. And we don't know. We don't know. Yeah. Can he do it? But he's a run game coordinator. So maybe if you get this guy a quality run game, look against the Jets, our two biggest runs. I think they were inside zone. Maybe
they were.
And you got to remember that another issue is off schedule and being under center. You've got to be under center more. And so all this stuff is a major philosophical, schematic, and conceptual soup. And it is so hard to process. And we don't really fully jive. Paul, I think, is better for a pass balance inside zone run game than he is the outside zone. But then Brewer's not, and then Jackson's not. And so there's this whole install we got to put in. But then you got major pieces that might not jive no matter which way you go. And so it is very, very interesting, but also uncertain. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. And we're sitting here talking.
I think I lost there for a second. I wasn't sure. I'm like, where am I
at? We're sitting here talking offensive line, and I could talk offensive line all day long.
Yeah.
It's home for me. And so we're talking about, and you just mentioned, Curtis, this list of things that we need. And you're right. Those are all needs that this team has. And a couple comments said, oh, that's really overwhelming. That's a lot of needs. And it is. So what they need to do is what I would do, and what I'm sure you guys would do too, is you'd look at the list of needs and you'd put each one of those needs up and say, if this is the only thing that we could change this year, if we could only change one thing about the team and the position, what would give us the most transcending effect if we changed one thing? And the only answer there is the offensive line. That would give us the most amount of positive change. And like you said, it's like they built this offensive line for two separate purposes and then mixed a bunch of players in there. Yep. They just like threw players in positions like you go here, and we filled the offensive line. Well, no, you didn't. You've got two separate schemed offensive line groups mixed together, and they're not going to do either one effectively if we don't separate that. Needs to be. They need to lock down one, separate for it, and build the offensive line around that goal. And I'm with you. I think the inside run game, that's what we need for red zone presence. Everything. If they would focus on that offensive line, just please focus on it. Everything.
There's a conundrum though. So.
Ooh, I like conundrums.
Yeah, it's actually they're always interesting, right? So you got Greer and you got the 13th pick. To me, Warren doesn't fit that specific need. And I like my offensive line. But he's probably the safest bet to evaluate. And you're going to get – when you get an offensive lineman, it can be wishy-washy. It's very hard to project. There's so much – people say, oh, he's a great guy. But it's like, who's he? What's his competition? It's very difficult to evaluate an offensive lineman. And so does Greer go, hey, I need this to win. This is going to make me look good in front of the fans. and then like you look at the Jets this year, and they went with the offensive lineman and didn't go with the tight end that LA took. But if they went with that tight end that LA took, that guy is going to be a Pro Bowl player for a long time locked down. I kind of like the other guy, Fashanu or whatever, and he had, but an offensive lineman take a nasty beating, like he mangled his foot, and so there's a risk factor, although there's a desperation factor. And again, it's kind of, if this guy Warren is a lot of what people portray, I've seen some clips. I hate when people do that. They'll put like one clip up and say he's this guy. You've got to run through so much film. It's not about one bad clip, one good clip, you know. But if he is like that dude, I can't remember his name now, from Vegas.
Bowers.
Brock Bowers. Yeah.
I mean, LA sucked and he helped them out so much. So I totally agree. But the key for us is the one we missed is finding offensive linemen, at least second round, but certainly third to fifth, third to sixth round. And so I do agree, but I don't know, even though I'm the offensive line guy, it's kind of like, you know, you've been talking about offensive line and now you're saying tight end.
Ooh.
You got to get that 13 right. And, but you should, with all these picks, find those linemen in that round, those guards. And there's a bunch taken this year that have done well. I think that Frazier was taken in third or fourth round. He's starting center, doing really, really well. So I agree, but man, a blocking tight end paired with Jonnu.
Yeah. That'd give us a good formation to run from for sure. And the short passes too. Like that would be amazing. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, keep going.
There's a.
How the hell do you have mosquitoes in New York?
I'm not in New York, man.
Or I thought you're in New
I
York
live in the
State.
land of heat.
Oh,
No, I'm in New York. I left 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I got out of there, man. So anyway, sorry guys, I'm interrupting. Keep going.
I just saw a comment here. It said trade Tua and Tyreek to Raiders and draft Shador or Cam. Shador Sanders and Cam Ward. Oh man, I see why people want that, but I try to think of it this way. That is such a risk. This year is not the year to go first round quarterback. I know there's going to be teams doing it, and I doubt those two quarterbacks will be there at 13.
Yeah.
But man, I really feel like both those players, I mean, they're great in their respects for college football, but they are not pro style offense runners. And it would be a huge mistake, guys. And like I said, I respect your all's opinions, and I'm not going to make fun of anybody at all, certainly not. But I totally disagree with that. Shador and Cam Ward would be such a bad thing to have.
Yeah, remember we were wanting to go on for it could be. You never know. It is a riverboat roll. Everybody wanted to go on for Watson. You see he blew his Achilles out again?
Yeah. I just saw that today.
Dude, that is insane.
It's insane. That's twice in like how long?
Oh, man, that is the worst contract in NFL history by a country mile. And you look at Vikings, look at the Bucks. There's other teams I can't think of right now. My brain's a little froze. Got gridlocked there for a second. But if you build the framework, you can find guys. We shouldn't be aiming at Super Bowl right now. We should be aiming at non-dysfunction and consistency and notching that first playoff win.
Toughness.
Yeah, and to go in on a quarterback. Look, Tua, to me, the best case scenario would be keep Tua, develop him so he doesn't get injured, make him look good, get another guy or guys. I would be drafting every year guys. And I mean, they found
fourth round.
Yeah.
Look in the fourth round for a quarterback.
And, or like somebody saying down there, Trey Lance. Let me put up. I'm saying.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
We've got to reset the foundation. You take shots on a guy like Trey Lance. Look what they did with, like I said, Darnold, man. I think they might even sign this guy long-term, Darnold. They might move off that backup, the rookie they signed. So, you got to Look at how the Steelers operate. Look how the Ravens operate. They draft well. They build a foundation, and then they wait for the right moment to get their quarterback. Lamar fell to them. And if you build right and you've got the team around them, you can get lesser quarterbacks and have success. We need to just have basic fundamental success and not dysfunction. So I people are really down on Tua, and the injury thing is legit, man. I've been saying it for years. That's why I didn't want to draft him, because of that. But I still think this kid can play. I'm not saying he's an elite player, but you don't do what he did if you totally wet the bed suck and in a bad framework. So if you could just keep this guy healthy for a season or two, get some founded pieces around him, and then you keep bringing other quarterbacks and give him competition. Make him earn it. Make him stay on the field, and then keep shooting. And if it works out, then you take the best quarterback and trade the other one. We've got to get assets, not do what Greer did and trade everything up for 10 picks for one guy here, 10 picks for one guy there. Trade back on occasion. Keep shooting. Keep developing. So I don't think going all in for a quarterback is wise. I'm not big on Shador, Cam. I think they look good. I haven't studied him enough, but it's so hard, man. It's so hard to find a quarterback, and we are way, way far away than a quarterback. So, we lost Dirk. I talked him out of here. So, anyway, he's back. I thought I talked you out of here. So anyway, don't worry, don't sweat it. Don't say. Oh yeah. Hey, look. Jordan Love was really close to being labeled a bust, and then clicked. Yeah. We should have a full quarterback group. Yeah. Where we're shooting. Nobody. Look, I like Tua in some ways. I don't like him in all. I like him as a person, but he should not be the star that you can't bring anybody to compete with him. It just got to be. Look, man, this is a team. They had Brady and they were bringing other guys in. Yeah. So, and they were spending good picks. And then they made stuff. Look what they got for Jimmy G, and they got for Brissett 2 second-round picks, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
For each one of them.
Yeah, and we got a couple things going on here. We have Tua's got a pretty cool contract for the Dolphins. I know everybody's all upset and they freak out and they hear $250 million, and it's not that. And you got to keep into account that after this year, we have an out. And then the next year, we have an out if we want it. There's ways to get around this. And number 2, I agree. We need to have a quarterback controversy. We need to bring in some guys and let them compete. It needs to happen. And if it does, Tua's not the guy that's going to sit there and be like, they don't want me anymore.
Yeah, that's
not going to.
Oh man,
no, it's not going to happen. He's gonna want to play and light a little fire under his butt. Give him a decent offensive line, not great, but decent. See what happens.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we have a good quarterback, not a great one, but a good one. And if we bring some competition in, that might be the spark that can ignite some of that transition into this guy's not good. He's great. I didn't want Tua to have this big contract. I wanted him to play on his 5th year.
I did too.
I wanted us to continue to draft quarterbacks. I did not ever want us to stick with Skylar Thompson. And I think that if we could just find 2 quarterbacks, one in the draft, one in free agency for, Mike White type money, and let's see what happens in the offseason. Let them compete. I don't know. I'm weird, I guess.
No, I think we have a quarterback. He's just very inconsistent. I think that you had your one side that just overvalued him, and then you had your other side that undervalued him. He could be a productive. If Mayfield can do it, Tua can, but Mayfield's a lot healthier. I think the health thing is a big, big deal. His arm, not being able to throw those outs and the deep comebacks, that's legit too. A little shaky on the deep ball. But Jimmy G didn't have it, and he went to the Super Bowl. He's a guy you can have success with. But, Elder, this offense is not a conducive offense for him. Is not. It's not really conducive for any quarterback because you can't be forced to throw very quick. You can't not run inside. But I think that you could have got way more value out of him if you had built this offensive line and the philosophy. He needs to be able. There was a play, I guess I can't remember who it was against. I did a film on it, and he came to the line of scrimmage, and it was clear he was under center. It was I think it was 21 or 12 personnel, and they were playing 5 yards off the ball at the linebacker in cover 2. And they had wide technique, 6 technique by the D ends. It demanded a run inside, and we passed. And so just from that standpoint, you've got to be able to adjust at the line of scrimmage. That will hamper any quarterback. And maybe he's not – some people say he's got like a 5 Wonderlic or whatever it is. Maybe he's not smart enough to process like some of these top guys. I mean, that's okay. It's hard to do that. But to call a run audible or pass audible – that's you call 2 plays in a huddle, and then you get the line of scrimmage, and it's either or. I mean, anybody could do that, and you just read the numbers. But we can't do that for so many reasons. The play gets in late, you get to the line of scrimmage, you have to move all your guys, and so I think that he's not a Hall of Famer, but I do think he is a quarterback. I would like to challenge him. I said I think it was 2 years ago, draft a quarterback to challenge him. But I think that the main thing is that for everybody for many different reasons. So, and
I mean, I think a really hard thing with him, just for the way that I see things, is that we expected a lot from this year.
That's fair, Elder. That's fair. That's fair. In this scheme. Sorry, I just wanted to cover that. Go, start, brother.
We expected a lot from him this year because last year was his best career season where he stayed healthy, and then they gave him the contract. And I mean, it's just kind of a weird thing how I think of things where obviously I feel very jaded now because he I know it's a team as a whole, but he cost the team a season for getting hurt, what have you. But it's like it's something that look at what the foundation put around him as far as the GM and the coach and the line and all that, where where the dude has to go out there and he said to himself, I'm gonna play till the death of me, where he goes out there and he hurts himself like so bad, where it's like you can't really fault the kid for like doing that, which is like I understand that, and it's like he feels that he has to carry it so much on his back for his team, that this team that hasn't won it's going to be 26 years that haven't won a playoff game, that he has to do that. That's like so it's such a sad factor of it. But then it turns around where it's like now that the season's over, it's like, dude, like why did you have to do, like you didn't have to do that. You running headfirst into Hamlin. It didn't matter if that was going to happen or not, dude. We weren't going to win that game, bro. We weren't going to win it, man.
I think he doesn't think. I don't think he realizes how vulnerable he is. Like that play is nothing.
I mean, I understand it from the point where it's like he thinks, and I mean, if anyone's in that situation, no matter what, if you care about the game and you love your team, you're gonna do it because you think, there's gonna be some way, some miracle that this is gonna jumpstart and crank started it, and we're at home, it's week 2, and we're gonna win this game still. But it's like just scoping out for him. It's like if that never happened, we beat Indy, we maybe we beat Seattle, maybe we go 3-4 in those games, and we're in the playoffs. This we're living in a pure alternate good reality where we're playing Houston with them, but it's just it's a weird thing with him right now where okay, you got hurt, and now it opens up all the questions that we're talking about, and everyone, where it's like we need to draft a quarterback in those later rounds. We need to bring someone in here, a competent backup QB, and even Mike and Chris, they said that in the meeting, we're going to do that. So, I mean, it's a conundrum, as we said earlier. Like that's another big piece where this is happening right now.
Oh yeah. Well, but think about it. Okay. So we all knew that, look, he's got a quick release. He could throw with anticipation. He had some mobility skills that were hampered by the injury he took in college. I mean, the guy, you don't have success like that in college. And then he's had success here, not against the good teams. But why would you make him Dan Marino? Why would you make him throw all the time to win? Why would you build everything around a quarterback who is not Dan Marino? He's not an elite thrower of the football like that. He doesn't have the arm to stretch the defenses. I mean, he obviously can work certain areas, but why would you take a guy who's like a B+ I think he's got, C areas, and I think he's got A+ areas, the release most notably. But why would you develop around him Dan Marino's offense? Is because what they had. We had Duper and Clayton. We had Waddle and Hill. We had no run game. We had barely an offensive line. Decent, running attack here and there. Dan Marino really didn't have that. But it was almost like we wanted to build the 80s offense around a quarterback who's not capable. I mean, it doesn't, and by saying he's not capable, it's not knocking the guy. There's no one could, Dan Marino couldn't do that. So what was the rationale? What was the sanity behind that? There was no sanity. It was totally ridiculous. And
who I want? You know who I want for a quarterback?
Who?
I want the one that's going to play the best for the Miami Dolphins.
That's it, brother. Yep.
That's what I want.
Yep.
And that's for the comments in the comments section. You guys, that's what we want. We want the best one for our team. And sometimes you can't be positive that so and so is going to be able to come in and play better than Tua. And that's why you have to look in multiple areas for a quarterback that can be better. You have to look in the draft.
Get rid of Tua if he's not the guy, and we got a better guy here. If we don't get a better guy, keep Tua. Can't. There's no one above the team. Fans got so it was like a two-way street. People got so invested in hatred of Tua that they weren't even paying attention to all these other areas. But then you had other people that loved him so much and created this whole thing that it was all about him. And then the Dolphins used the passion to hide all these other things. They kept the people who loved Tua focused on Tua. They kept the people who hated Tua focused on Tua. And meanwhile, the fox was coming and eating all the chickens. There's no one's above the team. And if we
Mr. Success is in the chat.
Oh, Mr. Success, my man. What's going on, brother? How you doing? There he is. Nicest guy in the world with the best backyard in the universe, dude. Jealous. He's probably nice and cool right now while I'm sweating my bald head off.
I mean, something going to that, Chris, I'll ask both of you just because I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago as far as, how could McDaniel and Greer have led like this? There you go, Cody. Yes, okay. How, and I don't want to sound like a Neanderthal or something like, but it's just something that I thought of. But how could Greer and McDaniel have been so bad to see, hey, we have Skyler, we have, Boyle here in training camp, and it's, we're okay, good at quarterback. Do you ever think for a point that Greer, and I'm just throwing this out there, that Greer did this on purpose because we know how Greer thinks and he wants to make his picks work?
Yeah, 100%.
With Eichenberg, that he did it on purpose. That he's like, no, Tua has to work, and I'm not going to do anything to try to help him anymore. That by giving him wide receiver, you guys think that it went that he thought that route to not that Tua can do it no matter what. We don't need anyone else, or to not have anyone step on his toes, or so he won't get like pissy or anything like that, or not set him up for failure, I guess, so to say.
What do you think, sir?
I think you're right about Chris Greer. I think he's just very hard-headed. And some people talk about Mike McDaniel not wanting to make changes and to do things differently. I think Greer is more guilty of that than McDaniel is.
Yeah.
And he wants his drafts to be a success, and he's gonna force them to be in there until they do better. And
his father did the same thing with the Patriots. Go check the history of the Patriots. His father did the very same thing. Go check what he did over there. It's the same exact thing he did with Carroll. And he had his guys. He was cutting the back of the coach, and he was saying, my guys need to play more. They could play. They would be the players. And Greer and his father have a deep attachment towards their players. And it goes above the team, and it goes above the coach. And so Skyler is also, because he missed out on Purdy. So he had to keep Skyler to say, hey, I got the backup quarterback. Look who I found in the 7th round. And I got Tua. And look at Eichenberg. Here's the biggest tell. I study people like nobody's business. Maybe you heard about me say it last night. When Greer was in his conference, what did he say? We have to draft offensive linemen like we did years back when we drafted Jackson, Hunter, and Kinley. Notice he did not mention Eichenberg.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he stuck with them all these years and spent that second and third. And Kinley, how do you even mention Kinley? 2 fourth-round picks, and the guy was out of the league in 2 years or 3 years. So Greer is all about his resume. He's a very insecure man. He's very, I think he's a guy that's smart, who maybe always wanted to play football but couldn't play football. He feels very insecure around tough guys and football players. And so a way for him to compensate for some shortcomings that he might have is to be the smartest guy in the room. And you ask yourself too, why did he never sign Van Ginkel? And for me, I wonder, Van Ginkel is a Flores guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were a lot of Flores guys. You hear only about the guys that weren't Flores guys, but there were a lot of Flores guys. And so some guys just didn't really get the interest and some did. How do you go hot and heavy on guys like Eichenberg and Connor and all these other guys that you just stick with and stick with and stick with? And certain ones you don't, and usually they're the productive ones. It's cool about Greer. You know, people wanted to say that Flores was, remember they told us, all these media guys, Flores was running the show. Flores was making all the calls. Poor Greer is just a nice guy doing what the coach wants. And then we find out Van Noy comes out and end of going into 2021. So this is the 2020 season. I was cut to spite the coach. He didn't say the coach. He said, my guy. Well, his guy is not Greer because Greer is the guy who has the power to cut guys or not cut guys. Flores only has control of 53 game day. So Greer cut Van Noy to spite Flores. But then we heard something totally, totally different. And we're going to hear it this year. Notice how he came out. He says, well, we got Mike McDaniel and he changed the culture here and he brought excitement and we traded a lot of our assets for big players. Like he literally was ready to throw him under the bus. Well, he came in here. He changed the culture. And well, he wanted these players. He's in charge and he will sacrifice anyone. McDaniel has a few little voices here and there. As we see what he said about EZ. He's like, I banged the table and asked him to draft. I was so happy that he got drafted EZ. It's the 4th round. If he's banging the table, then who's in charge?
Fitzpatrick was on a podcast this week telling a lot of some telling stuff too about what was going down when Flores was there. That
and I was disappointed though, because he said he was one guy, and then so halfway through he became another guy. Well, what happened? What created that change? And he didn't even bring that up. He's like best friends with Gailey. Didn't he say like it was weird that Tua got inserted and the media knew before he got put in, before the coach could talk to the team, and Gailey wasn't even like that. Was I love Brian Fitzpatrick. I thought he should have stayed in. But how do you not go? You've got a young guy from Brooklyn who worked his way up. He gets his first head coaching job, and he's got his boss trying to do things backhanded behind him. He gets his quarterback forced in when he's got no control. Yeah, the guy totally flipped out. He melted down. He was from Brooklyn, dude. He lost it. But, like, what drove him there? And even look at Tua as the Mr. Nice Guy. You see how nasty he got after the concussion for 4 weeks and how dude, this guy cuts everybody up. Flores lost it. Go check his personality. He literally was one guy, and then he walked in to tell everybody Tua was starting, and he became a total another guy. And why did not Fitzpatrick not bring that up? How can you not add context? How can you not say that there's all this stuff going on in the background? How can you not, like, everyone wants to humanize. I remember Ryan Fitzpatrick being, poor Tua, poor Tua, poor Tua. Well, he got screwed over by Flores, but he also got screwed over by Greer, who forced him in when he didn't know the playbook and he was injured. And we humanize, we know and why did this whole story come up right at this moment? Why does Flores always get turned into a monster? And his human side's he made a lot of mistakes, but how come his human side's never shown? Everybody else's human side gets shown.
Yeah. And you know what? I was really actually just unrelated, but I just wanted to say I I was really impressed with Flores in the this preseason. I think when he had that meeting, the press conference where he said, "Look, I made some mistakes and I'm trying to grow
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
get better." And I was just like, "Hey, that's why I liked him. I know he wasn't perfect. I know he had some issues, but I did like him because of that attitude right there." And he
Yeah,
meant it.
he did. He did. But could you imagine what it's like, the pressure? This guy's mom died and he was in like the next day.
Yep.
Can you imagine the pressure of working your whole life to this job and you got
Yeah.
your boss telling you to go meet Brady and you show up on a boat and Brady's there and you don't do it and you're told to tank.
Yep.
And then you just imagine what it's like to show up as he said, Gailey is the future of this offense and this team. He's a coach. He's in a fraternity. And all of a sudden you turn on ESPN and Tua is starting. Go check. I did a whole podcast.
I
Suit
probably
Hustle.
I probably would have been a little bit of a jerk too, Sea
Come
Devil,
on.
if I was going through
Here's
you know
another
some
one.
of that
He
crap.
says Gailey's going to come back. I expect all my coaches to come back. And 2 days later, a fake chef account comes out and says he's been fired. Gailey's been fired. And then he quits.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the pressure? I mean, everybody is like, oh, I wouldn't be. Just try to endure that. I'm not saying it was right, but everybody gets humanized but this guy. Why? You want to look at a dick. I don't curse at all. Ever. That's the first curse I've ever said. Chris Greer screwed everybody over. He's a total scumbag. Ross screws everybody over. How come he's not getting the heat? Remember how human they were? Even though Ross stood at the podium and lied to us. Oh, we'll look at another coach and Tua's our guy at the next coach. And he already had Brady in the wings and Peyton ready to come. Flores is the poster boy, the narrative, the boogeyman that they can get everybody's eyes off. It's not to say he didn't screw up. But don't worry, McDaniel's getting the same thing. Now he's the idiot. It's just a different version, different flavor. Flores was the guy from Brooklyn, the tough guys. You turn him into the monster. Now you turn McDaniel into idiot. And they're working in the background, working the narratives. But all the whole time, Ross and Greer have screwed everybody over along the way. Dishonest. And he's like Dirk said, he came and said, yeah, I made mistakes. But who have you ever, under the pressure that guy was under, and it's not to excuse it. He failed as a coach. He poured it out on certain guys.
Yeah.
But man, he was set up.
Well, and Sea Devil made a really good point. Sea Devil, you said he refused to talk to his coordinators and left us with these OCs, the OC fiasco. Well, and here's something I want you to think about. And I'm not saying you're wrong there, because he did. It's proven that he did ignore his coordinators, didn't want to talk to him for a while there. And part of that reason is because of what we're all talking about here, is that he honestly felt, and like I said, I'm not making excuses for Flores and how he acted and the mistakes he made, but he felt like he didn't know who he could trust.
That's right.
He
being
felt
set
like
up
he
at
was being
21
set
to
up.
lose.
He was getting set up and being forced to lose. He was being used as a tool, as a failure. And if I was in that position, I wouldn't want to talk to anybody on my coaching staff either, because number one, I can't fire him. Number two, I don't know who I can talk to, because who knows who's going to go report back to Daddy Greer.
Yeah.
And Stephen Ross.
Den of thieves and snakes.
I agree. Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, you're good. I agree with what Sea Devil said. It's a sensible thought process, but that's why that was happening, So, I mean, good point, but that's kind of why I feel like that happened. Not to make excuses, but.
Well, think about it this way, Sea Devil. He was doing what was right. He wasn't cheating. He wasn't tanking. And then they worked behind him to undermine him. And he could never have a head coach job again if everything went totally south. And he was given the worst setting in 2019. And so I just think, to me, you have to. This guy was a young coach. You brought him in and you totally lambasted him and set him up. Remember what it was? They gave him nothing. And by like week 4 or week 5, he's the worst team in the history of the NFL. He's a terrible coach. He's jeopardizing his players. Remember they came out and they were calling Ross racist for something he did. And he came out and defended Ross and they started calling him an Uncle Tom. This guy came in, was on fire from day one, and he got screwed. And he totally took it the wrong way, and he broke under that pressure. But that pressure was never examined. That situation, the lead up was never. No one still can answer some questions. Who put Tua in 2022? Who leaked the fake Sheffer thing that ESPN just buys into? Like, how does that happen? Then there's so much more than that I, in my Shoot Hustle thing that I went over. Go back and check it out. And it's not to absolve him. It's to add context. And because look, with the same dysfunction, where he's gone 3 years, we're still talking about him, and the same things are happening. Just different flavor. Instead of the bad guy, it's the idiot.
Yeah, different players, same game.
Oh, agreed. Totally embarrassing. This is the whole thing's just look what they did to Sperano, caught on the plane to go talk to Harbaugh. Remember, we couldn't even hire a GM after Bullygate, so we had to bring in Hickey in for a year, and then we brought him in to use him as toilet paper to wipe our butts for one season. And then we had Tannenbaum. Remember, Gase got his greased on the way out. The guy was totally insane. Everyone's the same thing. It's always the same. And it starts with Greer and the media department and Ross. They will eliminate and assassinate anybody. And they hide behind the narratives perpetually. Anyway, that was my rant. I'm done.
No, I mean, it's true. Hey, welcome back.
So I do agree with you, Sea Devil. But the context, there's two sides. And we still have yet to hear his side. Just imagine Belichick calling up the yellow coach to say, you got the job. And he's calling Flores. Hey, Brian, got the job over in New York. Good for you. Oh, I'm sorry, Brian. Wrong number. I mean, there's so much crazy stuff around this guy that like never really gets examined. Oh, yeah, he's definitely good.
And so anyway, with all this stuff going on, the one thing this could just be me. I know I don't speak for every Dolphins fan when I say this, but we have Chris Greer and Stephen Ross for this coming season, and Mike McDaniel. They're not going anywhere this year. It's already been decided. And since that's that way, regardless of how I feel, because every video I make on YouTube, I say we need to fire Chris Greer, every single one. But moving forward here, I'm looking at this as I don't want him to fail.
No.
This year. I don't. I want success. And even if that means Chris Greer and Stephen Ross.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I want success. I want a division championship. I want to have an actual run in the playoffs. I want our players to be successful.
Yeah.
I want to have these things to talk about with you guys and not.
Can we have both though? Can we get Chris Greer fired and stuff?
I hope so. I would love to see it.
You talk about the best of both worlds.
If I had to pick between one or the other, I would choose some success. I would choose a functioning team without issues. So that's just me, I guess, and my crazy optimism.
Well, look, you have to, but you also have to be realistic. I believe in legitimate hope. I believe in legitimate evaluations. I believe in legitimate criticism. I don't believe in hopium. I think I'm not betting. I wouldn't bet $10 that Greer's going to get this thing right. But there's a chance maybe. But I think though that there's a lot of layers that he'd have to get past, and history doesn't show it. That's possible, but we'll see. I'm here to entertain. I'm here to inform, and I just got to take it as it comes and evaluate fairly. Because there's people out there who do believe, and I want to believe, and so I got to take care of them. But like I said, if I go in there saying we're not going to do it, and Greer sucks, he can't do it, then my evaluation is going to be off. And I care more about honesty and accuracy than I care about anything else. And I got to kill it. I had a mentor, a writing mentor, and he's a famous author. He actually altered the detective novel genre, and he kept saying to me, Curtis, you gotta murder your little darling. And I never wanted to. I wanted all my flowery words, and everything I wrote was perfect, and I didn't want to gut it. And he's like, you gotta murder your little darling. And so whatever your little darling is, you hate Tua, you love Tua, you hate Greer, you love Greer, you want to win, you don't want to win. You've got to murder it or you won't have a good evaluation. And that's how I stay accurate. And so that's what I plan on doing this season. And we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. You're right. And I tell you what, though, if McDaniel ends up getting fired, I'm going to change my name on YouTube to the Ghost of Mike McDaniel. And I'm going to walk around in capri pants. I'm going to wear capri pants in North Pole. And every
I'm not
other
a big
word
fan of that stuff. I'm not a big
every other word is going to be So that's my plan.
Yeah, I don't know, sirs. I'm tired, guys. Even this whole kind of video thing, it's. I mean, I'm getting more of a headache now than when I started before. But I mean, that's all I could say. It hurts. I tell my friends, man, dang it, I love this team, but man, I hate this team too so much.
Oh yeah.
It's love-hate.
Oh yeah. Trust me, Elda, I'm on you.
Yeah.
And that's why I played the bad guy for 3 years. I refused to surrender to the hopium because you guys, Fin fans, deserve a good team, and we don't deserve to be led on by BS. So
when the breakthrough happens, when it happens, it's gonna feel so good. It's gonna happen one day, hopefully. If we're here or not, but it's gonna feel so good.
We're all gonna go crazy.
You got it, Shelby. You're right on that, brother. So, all right, guys, I'm going to end on a positive note. I thought this was a really great time with you guys. I thought the commenters are awesome as usual, and let's try to see how it plays out. Let's try to detach yourselves in a way. Just enjoy these playoffs, and in these playoffs, look at the teams. How are they winning? What do they got? What do we need? And just work on your evaluations. At some point, the Dolphins, I might be dead, and it might be 30 years from now. But the reality is at some point, if the world doesn't blow up, the Dolphins will be better again. And so build your evaluations so you don't get hoodwinked. So when you know a legitimate success, you've developed your evaluation to say, hey, this is real, and it's not another BS story. And we'll see what happens, guys. So you two guys want to wrap us up, you two?
You go first, Rick. You go first.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. And it's always a pleasure to be on Curtis's live stream. It's always a good time. I consider you both friends and Mr. Success. I can't wait to see you back here again. And like I said, it's a hard time, Dolphins fans, but stay strong, stay hopeful. And if you feel like following my channel over there at Frozen Fins Fan on YouTube, please do that.
Definitely.
I'm a very small channel, not as professional as Curtis is, but still worth watching.
Please, you're good. You're good. I'm not professional. Hey, CW, you talking about me? I'm reluctant to upgrade a certain position. I just want to address that before we leave. You mean me?
I think maybe quarterback is what he's talking about.
Oh, I'm totally fine with moving off to it.
Yeah.
But I want to get the most value out of him as I can. If you cut him now, you're not getting anything, and I'm totally fine with moving off him. I wanted Burrow. I didn't want Tua. I didn't want Herbert either because I bought. What are you going to get? I'm not a tune-on guy at all, man. I've been fair with this guy. It has nothing to do with that. I'm totally fine with that. I could care less. I mean, I like the kid as a person, but you got a lot of time in this kid. You've got to try to, even if you got a 4th round pick, it's better than nothing. Hey, there you go. Elder actually said what I said. Anything, you've got to get maximize. No one's suggesting. No, I'm just saying, I have no problem. I just think you've got to maximize. We never do that. We've got to maximize everything to get where we need to be. There's a team out there that would pay for Tua. If the contract, we ate the money and it was a mid-round pick or something. And you know what? I'd take a 4th-round pick for instead of nothing. So you got to hold on to every asset and milk everything you can out of it and maximize every asset. So that's why I think the kid could play. I don't trust his health. I don't know about his clutch. We've seen him fumble balls in key moments, but I'm not tuning on anyway.
So real quick, Curtis, I just wanted to say, anyone in the comments too, let's get off this Dolphin train because we're knocked out. Screw that. Sorry to say it. But I wanted to ask you guys, what is your guys' most exciting game going into this wild card weekend? For me, I just want to say real quick, because they started the season against each other, I think it's going to be a cool game because they play against each other. I think that Packers-Eagles game is going to be very interesting. It's cool how they play each other down in South America, and now they're going at it again, so that's cool. I guess I'll go to you first, Dirk. Which game do you think is like the most cool one that you would say for you that you're most interested in?
I'm kind of curious to see this Broncos-Bills game, just because personal reasons. But it'd be fun. I think it'll be a fun one to watch, and I don't think that the Broncos are going to be as much of a pushover as some people think.
I agree.
I think that's going to be a lot closer.
That's my game. The Bills better watch out. That team is not. That's a tough team with a great coach.
Yeah. Yep.
So good stuff, guys. I appreciate everything. I appreciate Sea Devil testing. I always believe in testing. Everything must be tested. You can't be afraid to be tested. Your ideas need to be challenged. That's essential in life, essential football, essential for your evaluation. So I appreciate everybody. Everybody have a good night. Enjoy your weekend. Dump all talk of the Dolphins, all thoughts. Just enjoy the beauty of football, the game of football. Just enjoy what you can this weekend. Life is short. We don't know. And then we can go start suffering after the playoffs and start talking about stuff. So, guys, thank you all so much. Thank you, Abel. Thank you, Dirk. You guys are the best.
I believe. Catch
you guys also. I'm gonna be covering these playoffs a little bit, so try to catch that coverage too, guys. All right. Thank you all. Have a good night. Be well. Go Fins.